Welcome to the official Wrestle News 365 YouTube channel. Thank you very, very much for joining us on here today. This is your WWE Monday Night Raw review for the November 18, 2019 edition of WWE Monday Night Raw. This week, Raw emanated from Boston, Massachusetts in the TD Garden for yet another live 3-hour episode on the USA Network. So what are we going to do here today? Well, what we're going to do, we'll break down every segment of the show. I'll give you my thoughts on tonight's proceedings, and we'll also see what you, our great followers, all thought of tonight's episode. At the end of every Monday Night Raw, we send out a Twitter post on our official Twitter account at 365Wrestle, asking our followers to describe Raw in 3 words. At the end of this review, we'll take a look at some of the responses, pick out some of my favourites, both positive and negative, and check out your opinions on the show. So make sure you stay to the end of the video to see if you made the list, as Chris Jericho would say. On to tonight's show. Obviously, tonight's episode was the go-home edition of Monday Night Raw before Survivor Series this Sunday in Chicago, Illinois. So overall thoughts on the show. Like with any Raw recently, or in modern history, certainly a mixed bag. Certainly a slow start to the show with the first few segments for me. But there were 3 real quality matches on the show that really did get on a roll at certain points, I thought. But then, like any Raw, came to a screeching halt at places. Although I did think that the show was better than last week's episode, not that that was difficult, considering how appalling last week's show was. It's just 3 hours. I mean, they obviously can't fill it. And that's what Raw is every week. Some good, maybe some great, but the majority bad. Because you can't have a weekly show which is 3 hours in length and consistently entertaining. I mean, it's just not possible. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, and Raw has been over 3 hours for 7 years. 7 years. Raw became 3 hours in 2012 when they had their 1000th episode. That was in 2012, 7 years ago. I mean, let that sink in. I mean, first of all, it feels like 20 years. And secondly, it feels like a jail sentence. On Wednesdays, I feel like it's a weekly furlough to go watch NXT and AEW Dynamite instead of a poor man's Nickelodeon crossed with Jerry Springer on a Monday and Friday night. It's just, it's a tough watch. It really is. Samoa Joe, who is currently injured with a thumb injury, he's still wearing a cast when he came out on his hand, replaced the injured, I put that in quotation marks, Dio Madden on commentary for this episode of Raw, and I thought he did great. I really did. I mean, we'll get more into that as we go along, but I thought he was insightful. I thought he provided great analysis on the matches. I thought he added an extra element of psychology for the heels, and he gave credit to the babyfaces in certain places, but he still kept his heel Samoa Joe character protected. And he's a legitimate analyst. I know people like Corey Graves used to compete in NXT, and so did Byron Saxton. He was on NXT when it was on Sci-Fi, and he did compete when it was at FCW, but I personally prefer to have the colour guy to have legitimate credentials. You think of people like Nigel McGuinness, you think of Taz. When they say things because of what they've done previously in the ring, their history, their words mean more due to their experience. So I really enjoyed that. So let's get on with the show. Show opens with Becky Lynch, the Raw Women's Champion, coming to the ring. Jerry the King Lawler says, "The man is here." And he does it the same way he did The Champ is Here when John Cena hit the ring. And it just really annoyed me. I thought I'd point that out. He used to do it for Cena, even when Cena wasn't the champion. He would say, "Oh, John Cena is here." I mean, yeah, we know. You know, I know technically we can't see John Cena, but you don't have to tell us every time he walks into the arena. Sometimes Jerry Lawler, he's not attitude Jerry Lawler, is he? It's just, yeah. Anyway, Vic Joseph said, "Anything can happen between tonight and Survivor Series. I will take that bet, Mr. Joseph. Because Raw, this is Raw we're talking about here. So I doubt anything can happen." Becky Lynch calls out NXT Women's Champion Shayna Baszler and SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley, calls them little snakes. and calls them out for a fight tonight. She says she doesn't give a bollocks. Now, for our American viewers, you might not realise that over here in the United Kingdom, that is a legit swear word. That's a cuss word over here. So Becky Lynch is dropping swears on TV low key there. She says we don't need to wait until Sunday, we can fight tonight. And where better for an Irish person to fight than in Boston, which gets a nice pop. Instead, the Iconics come out and interrupt. Yes, you remember them, the Iconics. They complain about being off the Raw Women's Survivor Series team. They call it a terrible oversight and call themselves the future. Becky Lynch then challenges the Iconics to a fight, to which Charlotte then interrupts. Apparently everyone's waiting up in a line backstage. She says she doesn't want to tag with Becky Lynch either, but forces want them together. She then talks about being the team captain of Raw. Forces. We're not being extraterrestrial here. We're obviously talking about the WWE brass and higher-ups that want these two together. The same forces couldn't just have Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania last year. You've got to have Charlotte in there, pal. They're then interrupted by Samoa Joe, who walks out still wearing a cast. And then they go to commercial. Now, they did this a couple of times last night, and oh my gosh, it is the most frustrating thing in the world. I mean, I'm all for a cliffhanger, but oh my god. Are we just to expect that nothing happens? Everyone stays still when they go to commercial? It's like when Andy walks in the room at Toy Story. When you go to commercial break in WWE, everyone freezes. Anyway, I thought it was a typical opening segment where nothing happens, really. I mean, think about it. What happened there? I mean, until Samoa Joe came out, it was just going through the motions. I mean, nothing happened. It was a bit of talking. Becky Lynch comes out to say she's the man. Great. A bit of posturing. But then nothing happened. When Joe came out, it piqued my interest. You know, you then start asking the question, what's going on? What's Samoa Joe doing here? Especially with the people involved in that segment. Why would Samoa Joe be there? So I mean, that was the positive. But as an opening segment goes, nothing happened. We then return from the break, and Samoa Joe joins Vic Joseph and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Samoa Joe says that we need an analyst that is Lesnar-proof. I challenge you, Samoa Joe, to go and watch Great Balls of Fire a few years ago to see how Lesnar-proof you really are. But okay, we'll move on. Opening match is Becky Lynch and Charlotte versus the Iconics. This match lasted all of 2 minutes. I mean, if that. The Iconics get some offenses on Charlotte. She turns it around. And then seemingly out of nowhere, she locks in the figure 8 on Billie Kay. Becky Lynch prevents Peyton Royce from breaking up, hitting the Bet Exploder. Billie Kay taps and that's it. I mean, honestly, it's about as quick as me describing it. Becky Lynch and Charlotte then walk up the ramp, and then NXT Women's Champion Shayna Baszler, Maria Shafir, and Jessamine Duke come through the crowd and attack the Iconics. Lynch and Flair then attack or attempt to fight back against 3 of the 4 horsewomen of the UFC, but the numbers game is too much. The NXT trio then back off into the crowd, but Lynch and Flair decide that they still want to get some more, so they attempt to follow them through the crowd, but security prevents them, which to me, I mean, absolutely baffled me. I mean, where is the logic there? So security is happy to let the NXT superstars attack the Raw superstars in the ring on their own show and do absolutely nothing, just stand there. But then the Raw superstars want to fight back. Whoa, too much. Come on, guys. Great logic there. Becky Lynch, then once she's being sort of held off by the security guard for not letting her through, hits him. And I think I would have too. They actually showed a slow-mo replay of this after the break, and Becky absolutely clocked the guy, which is a fun replay. The crowd reacted quite nicely to that. A bit of a stiff shot. I don't know how stiff really it was, but she clocked him. It looked good. But after a slow start and the ending of that first segment, this obviously was the segment and angle that was leading into Sunday for the Survivor Series Triple Threat match, and it was well done. Yeah, hype Sunday, so I can't complain there. Again, the logic with the security was a bit off, but it continues the NXT invasion storyline, so I thought that was fine. Backstage, Charlie Caruso has an interview with Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. They talk about their upcoming Raw Tag Team title match tonight, but they're then interrupted by AOP, who then attack them and talk trash to them while they're prone on the floor. It would appear the Breaking Bad twins are at it again, but at least it means we don't get that meaningless tag title match later on in the evening. So that was a thumbs up from me. I approve. The OC are out next. AJ Styles said he would love to defend his United States Championship tonight against Humberto Carrillo, but Humberto disrespected him last week. That's why, and I quote, Hot Carl Mother-Loving Anderson will beat Humberto tonight. During this segment, the King kept talking about Humberto's dimples. Yeah, I'll leave that there. This leads to a match between Humberto Carrillo and Carl Anderson. The OC interfere, but then the Street Profits come out to even the odds at ringside. Humberto hits an impressive dive. You've got to have a dive in there, pal. Wiping out the OC. Humberto hits a standing moonsault for a 2 count. During this time, I will say that this is when Twitter started to blow up with the Randy Orton Tony Khan issue, etc., which we can go into later. So it was pretty hard to focus on the match at this point. Anyway, Humberto hits a crossbody for a close 2. There was a nice spot when Humberto hit a springboard, which Carl Anderson countered into a AA style spinebuster, which was a nice counter. Then for the finish of the match, Luke Gallows interferes, hanging up Humberto. Carl Anderson rolls him up with a small package, but the ref is distracted by AJ Styles at that point. The Street Profits then reverse a small package for Humberto to get the leverage. Referee gives the 3 count. I thought it was an okay match. It was a fun match, good TV match, standard TV match. Humberto, for me, is getting there for winning the crowd over. You can tell, despite him being on TV for the last few weeks, or the last, 6 weeks, that when he first comes out, when his music first hits, that's always the litmus test, is that initial pop when you come out. It's still quite quiet when he comes out, but the matches are great. And if he keeps putting on the great performance in the matches, he will get there. WWE are obviously looking for the next big Latino babyface, aren't they? I mean, Rey Mysterio's in the main event of Survivor Series, and he's, in his 40s. So, is Humberto the next Latino babyface? I mean, you can never tell. They've tried it so many times with the likes of Alberto Del Rio. The list goes on. So, I mean, we'll see. But he's getting there for me. Backstage, Charlie Caruso is with Seth Rollins for an interview, and she asks him why did he accept Andrade's challenge tonight, where if he loses his spot on the Survivor Series Raw team, which to me is as legitimate a question you will hear all night on Raw, because the logic there, I mean, we keep going back to logic on this show, don't we? But the logic there in accepting the challenge is non-existent, really. I mean, why would you put that up? It would just, no sense. Rollins says he's never backed down from a challenge. He is a true babyface. Why would he accept the challenge? Because he had no choice. Well, you did, Seth. I mean, you had no choice, as it was the writers that told you to do it, but okay, we'll suspend disbelief there. He talks about Boston sports teams desperate to get that crowd to like him, and that people want to see the greats fall. I disagree. Not really. They don't want to see the greats criticise Will Ospreay's bank account. I think that's what everyone really wants to see. He says it's not Monday Night Andrade, it's Monday Night Rollins, and he will burn it down. That catchphrase will never catch on, Seth. Let's move on. Charlie Caruso then says there's breaking news that you will need to see to believe, and then they go to the break. Got to have that cliffhanger again, pal. Next out, it's Bobby Lashley with Lana. Samoa Joe laughs and wonders if it's worth the pain to Rusev. I also wonder if it's worth the pain to actually watch this storyline. Lana then grabs a microphone and says this morning she filed for divorce. That's your big breaking news. Yeah, absolutely. She says that we will not see her soon-to-be ex-husband Rusev. She's also filed a temporary restraining order, and that Rusev can't come within 90 miles of herself. She then says, and corrects herself, and then says Rusev can't come within 90 feet. And Lana and Lashley just want to be together forever. At this point, I was assuming that this was the breaking news we would need to see to believe. I see it. I don't believe it because it's a dumb, nonsensical storyline. But I can believe they're broadcasting it because it's such good shit. It's so well written, pal. Lana actually stumbled on her words. I don't know if she meant that this lasts for 90 days or instead of, she said like, oh, it's 90 days instead of 90 feet. I don't know if this lasts for 90 days. Regardless, whoever wrote this should be suspended for 90 days. Anyway, the match with Lashley and No Way Jose was a complete squash. Lashley gets the victory with a full Nelson, a master lock. An interesting fact, when he locked in the master lock, Lashley was the first person officially to break it back in 2007 in the build to WrestleMania 23. The previous person to actually break it was someone, an army officer, a tribute to the troops the previous year, but Lashley was the first official person to break the master lock, and now he's using it for a finish. Then after the match, the two make out in the ring afterwards, and I didn't get this, but Lana just sort of falls to the floor and sort of lays there. I'm guessing it was meant to be sort of, sexual and lustful, but it was just really awkward. I mean, if anything, there was more wrestling and grappling in the post-match make-out session than in the actual match of No Way Jose. I mean, the restraining order is dumb anyway. I mean, if she goes on about, they put it up on the screen. If it's filed, it was actually filed in Boston earlier today. Does that mean it's only good in Boston? I mean, is she gonna get a new one every week? What happens when they're in Chicago this Sunday? That's not what's legal in Boston's not legal in Chicago. I don't know. I don't know how US law works, but I mean, I don't know why I'm picking holes in this dumb storyline. Anyway, next we had Seth Rollins versus Andrade. Vic Joseph hyped, is the landscape of Team Raw about to change? I mean, I know they have to create stakes for their matches, but I mean, come on. I mean, not my hill to die. They show the Team Raw versus Team Smackdown versus Team NXT Survivor Series team graphics, and we still have no clue on who the NXT 5 will be. Is this a ploy to get them to tune in for NXT on Wednesday? Maybe. Maybe we won't find out on Wednesday. Maybe we'll find out the pay-per-view. We'll have to wait and see. I just hope they don't get ECW'd and swept at Survivor Series. I mean, they need to win something. I would say the match they probably need to win the most is that 5-on-5 Survivor Series tag team elimination match, the male one. And I say that I don't want them to get ECW'd because every time there was a tri-branded event back in the day when they previously had 3 brands, ECW would get absolutely killed. If there was like a 15-man battle royal, the 5 ECW guys would all get eliminated first. Now, I hear you. I'm not comparing WWE ECW to NXT, but you get my drift. WWE treatment of a third brand historically has not been the best. On the way to the ring, Zelina Vega says Andrade is the greatest in-ring technician on the face of the planet. There's big words from a small person there. There was a shot of Seth Rollins giving his shirt to a young child in the crowd who looked like they were ill. They might have been a Make-A-Wish child. So, you can criticize Rollins for whatever you want. I mean, that's a memory right there, isn't it, for that child and that child's family. So that was awesome to see. Chain Wrestling starts the match. Joe was playing the heel commentator really well here, and it stuck out to me because it's refreshing to have a heel commentator that isn't this whiny, smarky heel that Michael Cole used to be, or sometimes Corey Graves plays. Rollins and Andrade picked up the pace with some nice sequences and some arm drags. Zelina Vega then gets involved, holding Seth Rollins' ankle down on the apron. Vega then attempts a trademark Hurricane Rana from the apron. Rollins then actually catches her and throws her to the ground. The referee sees this and ejects Zelina Vega from ringside, so it's just 1-on-1 in the ring. Seth Rollins hits a sling blade, a blockbuster, and then back-to-back suicide dives, reminiscent of when he used to get the hot tag as a member of the Shield, and then a springboard knee for a 2 count. And I noticed at this point, I mean, credit where credit was due. We talk about when the crowd boos Rollins, so we should also talk about when the crowd is cheering him. And this Boston crowd at this point, they were into Rollins. I mean, they were up on their feet, they were chanting for him. He then goes for a buckle bomb. It's actually countered by Andrade into a Hurricane Rana into the middle turnbuckle, which the crowd pops for, followed by the double knees by Andrade for a close 2 count. Rollins then, after this, just deadlift Andrade into a powerbomb position and hits the buckle bomb. I mean, and that's awesome strength. I mean, John Cena used to be almost a staple of his. Roman Reigns does it quite a lot. But those guys are two guys who are bigger physically than Seth Rollins. So to see him do the same, I mean, it took him a moment to get him up, but it was impressive enough nevertheless. After that, Andrade gets his foot on the rope to break the pinfall. That'll be a recurring theme tonight. We would see that about 2 more times. Andrade then hits a back elbow, and he did the biggest slap when he hit the back elbow for the impact. It sounded amazing. He followed that up with the Three Amigos, shades of Eddie Guerrero for a 2 count. I don't know if this is just me, but it always feels slightly awkward seeing anyone do that move but Eddie. That it almost feels that his name is so sacred and that move is so protected that maybe it should just be Eddie that did it. I mean, maybe that's just me. Andrade then goes for the double stomp while Rollins is hanging from the ropes but misses. Seth Rollins then hits the Falcon Arrow for a near fall. Rollins then goes up top but is attacked by, guess who? I mean, I say guess who because you would never guess. The Lucha House Party from SmackDown. They beat up Seth Rollins on the outside. Andrade is then angry that they cost him the match. Obviously, if he won, he would be replacing Seth Rollins on Team Raw. The Lucha House Party then surround him and attack Andrade in the ring. Andrade attempts to fight him off, but then Rollins joins in, fighting off the Lucha House Party. Seth Rollins then gives Andrade credit, and they said he will do it again down the road. I thought the match itself, I thought was great. This is why I was saying earlier about there was a couple of matches on the show that were really, really good, and this was one of them. Through the match, I was thinking, Rollins and Andrade have great chemistry. You look at feuds they haven't done before, something that's different. A Seth Rollins-Andrade feud would certainly be that. I mean, like I said, the crowd was into Rollins and the crowd was into Andrade as well. And it was nice to have an Andrade match that wasn't littered with the shenanigans of Zelina Vega, just to have them two competing in the ring. It reminded me of those Andrade NXT matches with Johnny Gargano. Obviously not to that standard, but I thought it was one of the better Seth Rollins matches we've seen recently, and said the crowd were into it. As far as the Lucha House Party being involved in the finish, they have no business being involved in this match at all. In terms of the quality, Seth Rollins should be ashamed that he's been beaten down by the Lucha House Party when you've had people like Braun Strowman beat them in handicap matches 3-on-1. I think that's happened to the Lucha House Party a couple of times. So I was frankly surprised and stunned that they were involved. The only reason I can think that the Lucha House Party would be involved in this match is obviously you've got the Andrade Mexican connection. Maybe there's going to be shenanigans there, but I mean, like I said, the Lucha House Party being involved in this match, they've been saying on social media about them leaving, possibly when their contract is up. Maybe this throws them a bone. Maybe it was just the only SmackDown people they could get in the arena, which even that isn't true because they would appear later on in the show with the likes of Cesaro. It would have been more appropriate for someone like Robert Roode, Dolph Ziggler, Cesaro, someone else to get involved in this match. Not to criticise, but they're just not on that level. We then get a medical update from the announcers that Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins are not medically cleared tonight for their Raw Tag Team Championship match, so the match is off. Thank God, because what would be the point of that match? It was a pointless match anyway. Most likely, were they ever going to go through with it? I don't know. You never know this Raw writing team. Possibly a day ago, 2 days ago, that's what they were going to go with. And then maybe the day of, you get to TV and they decided they want to go in a different direction. Either way, the different direction was the right way, so I'm happy with that one. Then, you see a segment which really drew my ire. You see Buddy Murphy walking in the hallway backstage. He then sees a door with a sign that says Aleister Black. He then knocks on the door, stating, "Aleister Black, I am here for a fight." Then nothing. There's no reaction. No one opens the door. He says, "That's what I thought, all talk," and then walks off. After he walks off, about 10 seconds later, Aleister Black comes rushing out of the door looking around for Buddy Murphy. Looking, oh, where is he? Where is he? I absolutely hated this segment. Aleister Black looked like the biggest idiot around. He sits on his ass for seemingly months in a dark room talking about, I'm looking for a fight, I'm looking for a fight. Someone actually knocks on his door and he doesn't answer it. And then he rushes out like 5 minutes later looking for the person. What was he doing in there? Was he taking a dump? Was he having a leak? I mean, there's nothing worse than waiting for a delivery all day and then they knock on the door when you're in the toilet. I mean, maybe he was napping. I mean, it is dark in there. I mean, maybe like a parrot, when you put a cloth over the cage, he apparently just goes to sleep. I mean, it was so stupid. It was so stupid. I mean, the saving grace, I mean, a future match between Buddy Murphy and Black. I mean, I like the sound of that. That match is going to be awesome, absolutely. It has been rumoured that Aleister Black does have an injury at the moment. He got a tweaked knee. But it was so dumb. I mean, I was sitting there and I was thinking, how does this segment benefit Aleister Black? How does he look like a star? I mean, he doesn't. He just looks like, I mean, did he have his headphones in? Honestly, it just didn't make any sense. It did not make any sense. We then see Triple H arriving at the arena. You see multiple cars there, sort of hinting at the NXT invasion that is to come. We then see a promo package about CM Punk making his first appearance tomorrow night on FS1 on WWE Backstage, with the announcers actually mentioning his name. It's about time. The man who could not be named now once again can be mentioned on WWE TV. I don't know if this promo package was shown to the crowd. I feel like it wasn't, because there wasn't any CM Punk chants, and they did it again later on in the show before the Natalya Asuka match, and you could still hear Asuka's music in the background. So I would think that they didn't show it to the crowd. Next up, we have Buddy Murphy versus Akira Tozawa. The first thing I thought when Buddy Murphy came out is, why did they change Buddy Murphy's entrance music? I mean, that was a perfectly fine entrance music, to which has been replaced by the most generic of generic rock songs. I mean, I know I can't talk with the start of these videos, but I mean, come on. Akira Tozawa goes for a suicide dive. Buddy Murphy catches him on the outside in mid-air and drops him for a suplex. It was a super, super impressive spot. I mean, honestly, if you haven't seen it, go and see it. Picture this, a suicide dive. Think of all the momentum that someone like Akira Tozawa would have for a suicide dive. And Buddy Murphy catches him in mid-air after he goes through the ropes. I mean, the crowd didn't even really react to it that much, which was surprising for me as well. Also, Vic Joseph on commentary tried to get the spot over. He was saying, "Oh, how impressed was that? King, have you ever seen anything like that?" Even King didn't see that impressed by it. He went, "What, suplex on the floor? Yeah, sure, I've seen that." I mean, he just caught a man physically in mid-air that was moving at extreme momentum. It was impressive. Tozawa then gets some nice offense in. He hits a German suplex and the Shining Wizard for 2 counts. Tozawa then hit an inverted Hurricane Rana, followed by a suicide dive. Tozawa then hit a senton, his signature senton from the top rope, over Buddy Murphy, who was draping over the second rope for a 2 count. It was an impressive spot also. Murphy then hits back with a kick, followed by Murphy's Law for the victory. And I thought that was a really enjoyable match. I mean, the crowd got into it at the end. They obviously were struggling to connect with both superstars slightly. But again, it was a fun match. I enjoy seeing Buddy Murphy in the ring. I hope he gets more TV time. I'm completely here for a Buddy Murphy, Aleister Black feud. I think that'd be tremendous matches, as long as you don't have that stupid sort of writing nonsense that you think that they need this funny or this edgy storyline to really get the crowd invested in them. No, put them in the ring, they can have great matches. That's how the crowd will get invested in them. We then see Eric Rowan talking into whatever he carried to the ring last week, this sort of cage thing with cloth draped over it. Maybe Aleister Black's in there asleep. They shot it from the point of view of whatever he's talking to. He said, "You've grown so much since last week." He definitely isn't talking about the Raw viewership rating, that's for sure. Just, everyone needs a gimmick, right? Such good shit. We then see Buddy Murphy once again backstage, once again outside Aleister Black's door. Buddy Murphy goes to knock on the door, but this time Aleister Black opens. He was not busy. Obviously, he's finished whatever he was doing in there. They stare off, and again, that's it. That was it. They stare off for a bit. You're waiting for something to happen. You're like, and then nothing happens. Again, it's the Andy from Toy Story principle. We'll get a T-shirt made. But when WWE goes to commercial or when WWE fades black, nothing happens. I mean, for all we know, they're still staring at each other there. Like I said, the saving grace will be the matches. These promos, not so much. Next, we have Eric Rowan versus a local competitor. Rowan comes to the ring holding that cage once again. The Singh brothers then come out of nowhere, running, followed by R-Truth. Rowan then takes out both Samir and Sunil Singh with a double clothesline. R-Truth seems scared by Eric Rowan and runs off. Rowan then throws the local competitor from the inside the ring to the outside on top of the Singh brothers via a gorilla press. Rowan then hits the Iron Claw for the victory. Rowan then picks up the mystery box and leaves, with the commentators asking, "What is in the box? What is in the box?" My guess, I put this on Twitter, that I thought it was Luke Harper's signed release in there. Yeah, I mean, this is stupid, but who knows? Maybe they'll go somewhere different with it. I mean, I doubt it. Maybe it's the Rowan doppelganger. I mean, apparently he's disappeared off the face of the planet. Legitimately, what could it be in there? I mean, I have no idea at this point. Maybe his old sheep mask. Well, I don't know. Who really cares? Next, backstage, Charlie Caruso with another interview. She had a busy night, this time with Randy Orton. He says that he doesn't play well with others. He hears that the Viking Raiders are looking for a fight. I think he has mistaken the Viking Raiders for Tony Khan's Twitter feed, but nevertheless, Orton says he will meet them in the ring tonight with a partner of his choosing. Next up, we had the match of the night, which was Kevin Owens versus Drew McIntyre. Kevin Owens starts the match, hits a cannonball, goes for a stunner, but McIntyre rolled to the outside of the ring. McIntyre then, from the outside of the ring, Kevin Owens was standing on the apron and McIntyre threw Kevin Owens into the barricade. It was an awesome spot. Vic Joseph, to his credit here, did a really nice job setting up and playing up that they would be teammates on Sunday, yet they're destroying each other tonight, which is good, logical storytelling. I enjoyed that. I mean, years ago, yes, that would be an injury angle of that being thrown into the barricade, but this is 2019, professional wrestling, so it's par for the course. I thought it looked good. I thought it looked absolutely brutal, so it was really, really, really good spot. McIntyre then continues working over the back, hits a nice snap belly-to-belly suplex. Owens then hits the rolling cannonball from the apron onto McIntyre. The Boston crowd was really, really into Kevin Owens at this point. It's amazing to think that he did all that work previously as a heel. I mean, he wasn't the traditional heel, I suppose, since he was so over with the crowd, but now he's full-fledged babyface. It would be really difficult, I think, at this point for people not to cheer Kevin Owens. McIntyre then picked up Kevin Owens and almost hits a Death Valley driver. He sort of just picks him up and throws him again on the apron, which just looked absolutely brutal. I mean, Kevin Owens got so much elevation and he hit the ring so hard. Great spot. That got a near fall. McIntyre then catches Owens in a powerbomb. This was amazing strength. I think the WWE put it on their Twitter feed. He sort of catches him in mid-air and then deadlifts him for a powerbomb for a near fall. It's amazing strength. Owens then hits a frog splash for 2. He then hits a pop-up sit-out powerbomb for 2. Owens then goes for a senton bomb. McIntyre gets his knees up. Owen goes for the stunner, but then McIntyre counts and hits the claymore. And you think that's it. 1, 2. And then Owen gets his foot on the bottom rope, which was actually, I don't know if they intended to do this or not, but the way they shot it is that you couldn't actually really see that Owens had got his foot on the rope, which helped it a lot, so it wasn't obvious. Because sometimes when they do that foot on the rope spot, the way they shoot, and you know a foot on the rope's coming when it's coming because they're so close to the ropes, and also the way they shoot it, you go, okay, foot on the ropes, but it wasn't obvious this time, so that was really good. Owens then hits the stunner. But then McIntyre gets his foot on the rope. It barely gets his foot on the rope. McIntyre was stretching his arse off to get there. But he got his foot on the rope in the end. McIntyre then hits the Future Shock DDT for another 2 count. Owens then hits the second stunner. And you think that's it? He waits and waits. He's protecting that finish, brother. But then out comes Triple H. Before Owens can make the cover, they have a stare-off. And then they go to commercial. But they don't just go to any commercial, they go to a damn WWEshop.com Christmas advert comes on. I mean, come on. I mean, this is like the 3rd time tonight Can we quit theological cliffhangers, please? I mean, are we just supposed to assume that nothing will happen for the next 3 to 5 minutes? They're in the middle of a match. Triple H has come out. I understand suspension of disbelief, professional wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it. But come on. And then to top that, if I'm not annoyed enough anyway that we felt another stupid cliffhanger, we then come back and the match is just over. No McIntyre, just Triple H and Owens in the ring. They don't explain how it ended. Nothing. Okay. We're not doing that match anymore. Have they said who won it? Do we know? Does anyone know? I mean, maybe Triple H, I guess, because he's part of the McMahon establishment. He can stop a match whenever he wants. I'm trying too hard. That's a reach. It shouldn't be that complicated. And it's a shame because that was an awesome, awesome match. That was as good a TV wrestling match as you will see this week on any show, period. And it just happened to be on Monday Night Raw, which is usually awful. So to have an engine that's bullshit, I mean, I get it. They want to protect both superstars. But don't book it. Don't book it if you don't have a finish. Or if you don't want someone to do the job, don't book it. We also see some NXT superstars at ringside, along with Triple H, including the Forgotten Sons, Damian Priest, Dominik Dijakovic. And then we have the Triple H Kevin Owens promo. Triple H talks about his past in Boston, talks about Killer Kowalski, the Boston Garden. He then talks about Kevin Owens' history of NXT, being a former NXT champion, turning on Sami Zayn to get the championship. He talks about his WWE debut, interrupting John Cena on Raw, stomping on John Cena's United States Championship. He then says that Kevin Owens was taken and that they didn't want him. He weaves in a bit of a shoot and then a storyline. He talks about being fired by Kurt Angle, being fired by Shane McMahon, and that they didn't want him. He says that Kevin Owens belongs in NXT. Damn right he does. He says Owens doesn't fit the mold and he loves it. I love it. He says the NXT superstars came all the way for Owens. He says those backstage don't give a damn about Kevin Owens. Out comes the Raw locker room, including Cedric Alexander and Ricochet and others who brawl with the NXT superstars. But then out of the crowd, the Undisputed Era attack Kevin Owens, causing the OC to come out and chase off the Undisputed Era. And that was the end of the segment. Now, my opinion, maybe a controversial take on this, they didn't give Kevin Owens a chance to answer. Now, I mean, if this was a shoot, I guarantee he would have ripped Triple H's arm off and said, I will come back to NXT tomorrow, even though it's shown on Wednesdays. I think the Undisputed Era's attack, and I'm putting that in quotation marks, on Owens could potentially pave the way for a turn at Survivor Series. I mean, we know Owens is on Team Raw. We don't know who's on Team NXT yet, but maybe you have some of the members of Undisputed Era on Team NXT. I would think that unless he's put into another match on Survivor Series, Adam Cole will be on Team NXT, most likely the team captain in the male tag team elimination match. Then you have Adam Cole left with, say, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. Owens then turns on Rollins, giving NXT the win and jumping to NXT and being part of the Undisputed Era. I mean, that is, yes, a reach, but we shall see. Next, we have more Charlie Caruso. More Caruso breaking news. Apparently, Charlie Caruso is now filling the role of the breaking news ticker on CNN. Charlie Caruso announces next week AJ Styles will defend his United States Championship against Humberto Carrillo. Paul Heyman then appears on screen for some more breaking news. He explains the timeline of Brock Lesnar and Rey Mysterio's rivalry, from Brock attacking Rey's son Dominic to Cain Velasquez's debut and their match, if you can call it that, at Crown Jewel. Heyman says that Lesnar is fine amid the rumours that Lesnar might actually be injured after Rey Mysterio's attack with the lead pipe a few weeks ago, and Lesnar will be at Survivor Series. Heyman says the rumours that Lesnar is injured are false, and that to prove it, Sunday's match is now no holds barred, and that it won't be a 5-second match. It will be, quote, a public torture session. Heyman questions whether it's miracle or massacre. Now, he didn't butcher the line like I just did, but I really enjoyed that line. I wish they'd used it earlier on to hype the match between the two. Miracle or massacre, that could be a pay-per-view name in itself. I thought that was just a great line from Heyman. Charlie then invites Rey Mysterio in. Firstly, he asks Humberto to come back, and then he puts him over. So, as I mentioned earlier, although they're obviously angling Humberto Carrillo to be that next, big Latino babyface, Rey then says he accepts the no-holds-barred stipulation for a Survivor Series WWE Championship match. He says his friend will be with him at Survivor Series, and then holds up the lead pipe, which he attacked Brock Lesnar with. Mysterio says he's not coming for an apology, he's coming for the WWE Championship, and says, "This is for you, son." I think the stipulation makes sense. I mean, Lesnar did beat the hell out of the guy's son and godfather of his son, his family. So the stipulation makes sense from a storyline perspective. I think it also means it's likely to be the blow-off match for the feud. So even more likely that Lesnar's winning this one. But it does help with the believability factor in the match of Rey getting in some legitimate offense. I mean, Brock's last two matches have ended in 5 seconds with Kofi, and then a couple of minutes at most with Cain Velasquez. So if this was a regular one-on-one match, I mean, no offense to Rey Mysterio, but how long's Brock Lesnar going to take or need to take? So no holds barred stip allows Rey to use weapons, make Lesnar vulnerable. They've already hyped up Lesnar might not be 100% to even the odds for Rey. Well, he might not be 100%, but he gets a pretty damn lot of time at home to rest, so I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure we'll also have bells and whistles with the likes of Dominic, Cain Velasquez. Hey, who knows? Maybe even Dio Madden will get involved in as well. So it'll be interesting. Next up, we had Natalya versus Asuka with Kairi Sane at ringside. Asuka locked in a nice octopus stretch on Natalya. Natalya hits a discus clothesline for a 2 count. Kairi Sane attempted to get involved in the match. Natalya just pushed her over, which made me laugh. I mean, simple things, please, simple minds, I know. Natalya was distracted just enough for Asuka to hit a stiff kick for the victory, and that was it. I mean, I spoke at the top of the show that WWE struggles to fill the 3 hours every week, and I think this was evidence of it. I mean, there was nothing to the match. I'm not sure really why it was there. The only positive coming out is that the Kabuki Warriors are continued to be featured more on TV, more than any previous women's tag team champions. Who, I'm trying to pick holes or trying to take positives out of that, but I mean that was about it. Next, we had your main event: Randy Orton and a mystery partner. Who could it be? Who could it be? Who could trust Randy Orton against the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Viking Raiders? The mystery partner was revealed to be none other than, drumroll please, Ricochet. I mean, I didn't do the full drumroll there because it was not surprising. Samoa Joe, bless him, says, "Well, that was unexpected," on commentary. Now, that's a lie, Joe, and you know it. Of course it was expected. They teamed together last week. They're obviously starting a feud between the two. Ricochet hadn't appeared on the show, apart from that KO segment earlier. So yeah, it was predictable. Nothing wrong with the selection. I just don't like them talking to the audience like we're idiots. Oh, that was unexpected. Come on, give me a break. They then cut to backstage to see SmackDown's Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode and Cesaro attacking the Raw Superstars backstage. Chaos, the announcers cried. Chaos. It's the exact same chaos that's happened for the last 3 years, right before Survivor Series, right? I mean, and that's the problem with the brand supremacy invasion storyline. At this point, it's just paint by numbers. Raw versus SmackDown has been overdone to death. I mean, they did it enough in video games in 2005? I mean, that's why the NXT invasion has been so well received. It's because it's different. We haven't seen it before. But whilst that's going on, the match in the ring continues. Even though McIntyre and Owens didn't continue, apparently that can have a distraction and carry on. Ivar and Ricochet exchange some athletic high-flying moves. Randy Orton seems ready for the RKO when the SmackDown AC/DC theme hits, with the SmackDown roster hitting the ring to attack Orton, Ricochet and the Viking Raiders. Seemingly, at this point, the Raw roster didn't care at all. So they didn't come out to save their teammates. They just got the SmackDown roster just decided to beat them up, and the Raw roster just didn't come out. Next, some people come out and you think, finally, the Raw roster's coming out. No. The NXT roster then hits the ring with the likes of Tommaso Ciampa, Matt Riddle and Keith Lee. They attack the SmackDown roster and then surround the ring with Orton, Ricochet and Viking Raiders inside. Orton then hits a couple of RKOs, including an absolutely sick RKO on Dominik Dijakovic before Seth Rollins' music hits and he leads Team Raw to hit the ring and join in the brawl. Raw, SmackDown, and NXT brawl in the ring and outside the ring. We then cut to Triple H, who says this Wednesday, NXT is an open door. Raw, SmackDown, Triple H will leave the door open for you. So obviously they're continuing the Survivor Series hype, but going off the air on Raw, basically telling the viewers to tune in on Wednesday. You have to tune in on Wednesday. See what happens Wednesday. NXT, you will see Raw and Superstars, Raw and SmackDown Superstars, on Wednesday, which says quite a lot. I mean, they're obviously trying to draw a big rating. They got close a few weeks ago to overcoming AEW Dynamite in the ratings. They were 9,000, 10,000 viewers short. So it will be interesting to see how many viewers they do manage to cross over on Wednesday from Raw, but we'll have to see. If I had to put my neck on the line, I would say that I think, and I can just imagine I'm going to get this completely wrong, but I would say I still think AEW Dynamite gains more viewers once again this Wednesday. But if there was ever a week which NXT could outdraw Dynamite in the ratings, it would be this week. They've had a massive push on Raw, saying you have to tune in Wednesday to see Raw and SmackDown Superstars. I mean, this could be it. Anyway, that was the show. Let's get on to your opinions. Raw in 3 words. At the end of every Monday Night Raw, we send out a Twitter post on our official Twitter account, @365Wrestle, asking our followers to describe Raw in 3 words. So let's take a look and see what our followers thought of tonight's Survivor Series Go Home episode of Raw in just 3 words. At RedChick1978 says, NXT stands tall. Obviously referring to NXT's invasion there. I'm not sure if I would say that NXT stood tall on the show. They certainly had their presence felt like they have throughout this NXT invasion storyline, which, like I said, has been the better element to the paint-by-numbers Raw vs. SmackDown invasion yearly Survivor Series storyline, certainly. At Hab_wrestling says, something is missing. I would agree with you to an extent on that. I think something that's missing is that 3 hours. The third hour just needs to go. I would agree with you that something's missing. That they still have reasonable star power on the show, but just you don't have that one thing that makes you tune into Raw. It used to be Bray Wyatt and The Fiend, and that's on SmackDown now, but even that is getting watered down. So I would agree with you on that something is definitely missing. At Mr. Lag is my excuse, great name, says same shit again. I would agree with you. I think that's just WWE in a nutshell nowadays. It's the same shit again. Like I said, around this time, around Survivor Series time every year, they've decided Survivor Series is Raw vs. SmackDown. And for the last 3 years since they've done it, it's the same every again. And then even beyond that, week to week, it is mostly the same. And that's not going to change. The way to change it is you have to let your voices be heard on Twitter. And even then, it's not going to change as the same guy's in charge who's been in charge since the early 80s. And that's Vince McMahon. It's always going to be the same whilst he's there. It's stale, it's overdone, it's boring, it's dull. Finally, Chris Hincat42 says, not all elite. Obviously an AEW Dynamite fan there. No, it's not all elite wrestling. It certainly isn't. That's a good thing with Dynamite, is that it's different. It's a different show. It's a fun show. I'm not going to be one of those people that criticises WWE to praise AEW, because I think at this point it's comparing apples to oranges. I think they're just completely different shows. They're different perspectives on professional wrestling. You look at AEW Dynamite is a show that's all about not being unscripted, but having creative freedom, bullet points on promos, whereas WWE is scripted, verbatim, what the writers write, you have to say. And at the end, essentially that's acting. That's taking the art out of professional wrestling, isn't it? So what did you think of the show? Let us know your thoughts on tonight's episode in the comments section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once we get to that magic number of 1,000 subscribers, we'll be able to do live reviews of every single show and really get our great followers more involved in our reviews. Don't forget, you can follow WrestleNews 365 on all our social media platforms on the screen right now. Twitter @365Wrestle, Facebook @WrestleNews365, Instagram @WrestleNews365, Storyfire, you guessed it, @WrestleNews365. We will be uploading exclusive content to our Storyfire channel every Saturday and Sunday. So make sure you subscribe over there to not miss any of the action you won't be able to find anywhere else. You can also visit our website, WrestleNews365.com, for the very latest news, reviews, exclusive series, and much more. You can also support WrestleNews 365 by purchasing our merchandise. Visit WN365.com. That's WN365.com for all our merch and apparel. If you do purchase an item, be sure to post it on our social media so we can share it with our followers. We really do appreciate all your support. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. We really appreciate it, and we'll speak with you again very soon. Very soon. Very soon. Very soon.